Today we're diving deep into what is probably the greatest medical and biological mystery of our existence. Why do mammals grow old? And ultimately, why do we die? But here's the thing. We're not going to be talking about boring abstract theories. Instead, we're going to break down a huge body of recent data and discoveries that are literally changing the rules of the game in biology. To kick off this analysis, we need to ask ourselves a huge question. Is it really possible to measure the speed at which we age? Historically, we've always viewed aging as an unavoidable countdown, as nothing more than wear and tear caused by the passage of time, something we simply couldn't do anything about. But the research we're looking at today completely turns that idea upside down. It turns out that aging isn't a rigid timer. It's actually a highly flexible biological state that can be measured clinically. It can be analyzed at the molecular level, and believe it or not, it can even be modified. Just think for a moment about what the concept of age really means. There's a massive difference between our chronological age, the number of years we've lived, or in other words, the number of times we've gone around the sun, and our true biological age. That's the one that reflects how worn out our body systems really are on the inside. Imagine two people celebrating their 50th birthday on the very same day. Their biological ages could be dramatically different. One person's internal clock might say they're 40, while the others could already be ticking at 60. In the end, it all comes down to how fast their internal systems are ticking. Here's our roadmap for today. First, the aging clock. Second, the universal biomarkers. Third, from mice to humans. Fourth, how to manipulate this clock. And finally, the future of longevity. Section 1. The aging clock. What exactly is all this? To understand it more easily, imagine that a mammal's body is like an incredibly complex car. But here's the catch, it's not just one solid piece of metal. It's made up of different cellular modules, such as the inflammatory system or the mitochondrial engine. And of course, over time the car doesn't age all at once. Instead, every single component wears out at its own pace. So, to look under the hood and understand that wear and tear, scientists rely on one essential tool, the transcriptome. Unlike DNA, which is like the static instruction manual we're born with, the transcriptome tells us which instructions are actually being read and carried out at this very moment. It's like watching our genes in action in real time. So by measuring it, science can pinpoint with almost science fiction level precision exactly which components are failing at any given moment. Now let's move on to section 2. In search of universal biomarkers, the data. With this incredibly powerful diagnostic tool now in hand, the researchers went full detective mode. Their goal was enormous. They wanted to find out whether the way our cells age is something unique to humans, or whether there's a shared signature, a kind of biological fingerprint common to all mammals. And to find the answer, they processed an absolutely staggering amount of data. We're talking about more than 11,000 transcriptomes analyzed in extraordinary detail. They examined over 25 different tissues from mice, rats, macaques, and humans. They fed all of this into highly advanced mathematical survival models to search for the common denominators, universal genetic signature that determines how all mammals age. Let's see how everything comes together in section 3. From mice to humans, a universal connection. The results from those 11,000 analyses are nothing short of astonishing. They found that regardless of the species, the biological clock follows exactly the same molecular rhythm. If we look at mice, their mortality-related genetic signature rises along a remarkably clear curve. As cellular damage accumulates throughout their bodies, their aging signature increases exponentially. In other words, their cellular clock operates with almost perfect mathematical precision. But wait, because when they analyzed rats, which are an entirely different species with different lifespans, something fascinating happened. The exact same pattern emerged. The slope of the graph, the way the data clusters together, everything showed the very same statistical consistency. We see the exact same biological clock patterns confirmed completely independently. Genetic wear and tear follows the very same roadmap. It becomes crystal clear that the rules governing cellular aging don't change between these rodents. And if we move one step closer to primates, the level of surprise becomes even greater. Macaques share a great deal of our fundamental biology. They have highly complex brains and immune systems that are remarkably similar to ours. Well, it turns out their aging signature is virtually identical to ours. Exactly the same set of genes changes its activity over the decades, tracing that same relentless path toward the end of the expected lifespan. There are no exceptions, which naturally brings us to the key point of all this. The researchers took that very same mathematical model, applied it to humans, and bingo. They found exactly the same pattern. The very same biological countdown is running inside each and every one of us. This is compelling, definitive evidence that a universal aging clock exists across mammals. We all carry the same mortality signature, a biological mechanism that evolution has preserved almost unchanged for millions and millions of years. And what illustrates this so beautifully is that aging happens in stages. It's almost as if it's modular. If we look inside our organs, it's clear that we don't all age at the same rate across the entire body. For example, it's entirely possible for someone to have a biologically young and remarkably healthy heart, while at the same time their kidneys or immune system could be aging at full speed. Genes involved in inflammation can wear out extremely quickly because of chronic stress, while the genes responsible for energy production in other cells remain almost untouched. Our bodies are truly a symphony of unsynchronized clocks. Now we enter section 4, manipulating our biological clock. All right, get ready, because this is the biggest plot twist of the entire explanation. We now know this universal clock exists, right? Well, here's the real bombshell. This transcriptomic clock isn't fixed. Its hands can actually be moved. When we look at the impact of lifestyle and medicine, we see that harmful factors like high-fat diets or chronic diseases push the accelerator all the way down. They flood the body with stress signals that cause our inflammatory machinery to age prematurely. On the other hand, interventions such as calorie restriction or certain drugs like rapamycin send signals that encourage cells to repair themselves, dramatically slowing the wear and tear of our mitochondrial engine. In other words, we actually have room to intervene. Modern molecular science goes even further, venturing into truly astonishing territory. There are advanced therapies that are essentially the biological equivalent of performing a factory reset on our cells. Incredible processes like cellular reprogramming, which erase the wear and tear from an adult cell, returning it to a state that's remarkably close to being newborn. Or heterochronic parabiosis, which involves transferring youthful biological factors to help rejuvenate aging tissues. And in animal models, the results are simply extraordinary. These approaches don't just slow down decline, they actually reverse genetic damage. They are literally turning the biological clock backward. Perhaps the most fascinating part of all this is that it completely changes the way we understand medical biology. By analyzing the expression of these universal genes, scientists can predict how long an organism is likely to live with an astonishing degree of accuracy. And they've demonstrated empirically that this biological state is actually flexible. In other words, aging is no longer an unchangeable law of physics that we're powerless to escape. It's a biological process that can be modulated, one that follows a set of instructions. And it turns out we're beginning to learn how to rewrite them. We've now reached the final part, section 5, the future of longevity. So what do all these discoveries actually mean for us in the real world? The ultimate goal isn't, as many people believe, to live for 1,000 years in poor health. What we really want is to extend our healthy lifespan, to stay healthy and free from disease for as long as possible. And the key lies within the responses encoded in our own genetics. Because aging isn't simply a one-way downhill journey, our bodies are remarkably intelligent. As some of the genes responsible for vitality begin to slow down, other protective genes such as FMO3 become more active. Their job is to compensate for the damage and help fight cellular deterioration. Understanding how to control that balance is the holy grail of future medicine. In short, the treatments of the future won't consist of a single magic pill. They'll be ultra-precise molecular therapies. Imagine going to your doctor and the very first thing they do is identify exactly which cellular module in your body is beginning to fail. Then they analyze your transcriptomic clock to measure how quickly that specific system is deteriorating. And finally, they prescribe a treatment designed exclusively for that damaged area, repairing your cellular systems one by one, long before any disease has the chance to appear. And all of this leaves us with one final thought, a powerful conclusion to end this analysis. The empirical evidence is now on the table. We now know with complete confidence that the cellular markers of aging are virtually identical in humans and in the rest of the mammalian world. And we also know because it's already happening in laboratories around the globe. That cutting-edge science is already slowing down and even reversing the cellular clock in these species. So the real question is no longer whether aging can be treated. Instead, it's how much longer it will take before we can finally rewind our own biological clock. Thank you for joining us. Subscribe and share to keep discovering together.